Hi, I'm Kristen, and this is the Simple Handmade Everyday podcast, where I talk about living a creative, intentional life. I like to chat about quilting, knitting, what I'm reading and watching, and a little bit about keeping a cozy, organized home. You can find me online at my blog, Simple Handmade Everyday, and on Instagram as Kristen Esser. I've got my cup of tea in hand, so let's settle in for a chat. This is episode 36. Welcome, or welcome back, depending if you are a returning listener. How are you? It's hot October here in Southern California, and I'm back in the hot recording closet. I meant to check the temperature before I came in here. I think it's 90 plus degrees outside, and it's dry, and it makes everybody very cranky around here. But we're headed into the holidays, so that's super exciting. I have just basically been adjusting to having an emptier house, 2 kids back in college and trying to get back into those good routines. And that's been fun. That's the, kind of good thing, as we slowly become empty nesters, you got to find the good in that, and kind of finding my feet with those new kind of routines has been helpful. But the most exciting thing is it's today. I'm recording on a Monday, and I went on Friday through Sunday to San Diego, sort of a combo visit. I was able to visit both my kids at UCSD, but the impetus for the trip was that my friend Holly Ann over at String and Story was doing a conference on Coronado Island, which is you get to Coronado Island. It's a little, I guess, I want to say south. I don't know exactly, but it's a little below San Diego. It's a 2-mile bridge over to this adorable island that has a very much, I was explaining to her, kind of a Santa Barbara vibe. It's got the palm trees and the bougainvillea. Super cute place. We've just gone over there to the beach and to drive around, get an ice cream cone, walk the cute neighborhoods, things like that. So I jumped at the chance to stay out there. So she was there for a couple days before me, and I came in on Friday, was able to hang out with my 2 kids, took them out to dinner. Actually, my son and I got just a couple hours to just chat before Chloe was ready for us, which was just really fun to get all caught up, and went to dinner and for coffee and, all that kind of stuff, and just kind of get to, love on them a bit. And then I got back to Coronado Island. Holly Ann was, off doing her own thing. So we got to kind of touch base late that night, which was fun. And then the next day, she still had her conference going. I went back over the terrifying bridge to drive across the 2-mile terrifying bridge. Not my favorite thing. Just like, it's just a road, just look ahead. I would not look over the side. I don't know if you've got this fear. I wouldn't say in general that I have a fear of heights, but I guess I do, because I very much hate Ferris wheels. And I do not like going over bridges. So anyways, headed back into San Diego, took the kids to brunch, bought them some clothes, loaded them up on groceries, the typical kind of mom's visiting college thing, which is fun. And then headed back to Coronado, and Holly Ann and I went to Little Italy in San Diego, which is, we've been visiting San Diego for a number of years now, and I thought we'd done all the touristy things. We had not. We'd not been to Little Italy, which was so super cute. So that was just, kind of a fun dinner. Then we walked all over and just chatted for hours and hours and hours. Walked over 20,000 steps that day. And so what's kind of cool about this whole thing is that Holly Ann is someone that I know from online quilting friend. We did connect when she came out here for QuiltCon in Pasadena a couple of years ago. That's the only time I've ever seen her in person. We chat using an app called Voxer, like on a basically near daily basis. So, we know each other very well, but we have only once, been around each other. But I am just so constantly surprised by how you can find your people online. Because, we shared a hotel room, and that first night we sat up and we talked until 1 a.m. And it's like, she's like a friend I've had my whole life. You know what I mean? And it's just so weird, because it's the only second time we've actually ever been in the same room together. So, that all the things that you can say about the internet, and I can say plenty of negative things about the internet, the ability to find your people in these weird little niches like, quilting and sewing it really so facilitates that. And so anyways, it was lovely. She's absolutely lovely. She's a fantastic teacher. And I'm just so excited about the new Free Motion Quilting Academy she's launched. And yeah, just like where this girl's going, there is the sky is the limit. So anyways, it was just, it was really fun. And now I'm just back here on Monday, trying to not feel overwhelmed with the fact that, I've been gone for a while and I just feel a little behind everything, from a homemaking standpoint. I guess I'll probably talk about that more at the end of the podcast, but just 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there, one foot in front of the other. I've got all week to catch up and get done what I need to do. And I really have to fight back those tendencies of, I just want to muscle through and just do everything today, and just 15 minutes at a time adds up and I'll get there by the end of the week. Oh, cup of tea. I do have a cup of tea, even though I'm sort of sweating here in the closet. Can you hear? I hope you can't hear those hangers that my elbow keeps hitting. I'm drinking decaf green tea from Trader Joe's. I did not do a whole lot of great eating. The food was delicious. It was high quality food, just a little more on the carby, sugary side than usual. So I'm just eating super healthy today, trying not to overdo the caffeine. So I've got some nice green tea here. I should have made iced tea, but I just honestly didn't have the patience. So I've got my nice cup of green tea in hand. I hope you've got something fun to drink, however you were listening to this. And thanks to Fat Quarter Shop for sponsoring this episode of the podcast. Fat Quarter Shop is a one-stop show for quilting fabrics and supplies for quilters around the world. They stock quilt shop quality fabrics, pre-cuts, quilt kits, patterns, and notions. And did you know that they also carry cross-stitch supplies? This month, you can get 20% off Laundry Basket Favorites fabrics. These are gorgeous linen texture basics that come in gorgeous colors. Definitely check them out. Fat Quarter Shop carries all major brands like your Moda, Riley Blake, Wyndham, Robert Kaufman, and Art Gallery with the largest selection of Fat Quarter bundles. Whatever fabric, pattern, or notion you're looking for, chances are they have it. Visit them at fatquartershop.com. I'll put a link in the show notes. Let's talk quilting. I feel like I have so much to talk to you guys about. I've heard from a few of you that you like the longer podcasts, and I suspect that this might be one. So I've done some real sewing lately. I've some of these projects I've talked about before, but I brought many of these to completion. The first one is the Let the Light In quilt, which is a triangle in a square quilt that I did with the Madame Floor fabric line from Quilting in the Rain. I did that for her market booth, and I sweated that one. I got to be honest with you. I sweated the color placement. I sweated whether it was too simple. I sweated a lot of stuff about that. But ultimately, I love it. It was quilted by Deanna over at Sewing Blue and using the citrine motif from Urban Elements, and I absolutely love that. The other thing that I didn't talk about is for the triangle in a square block, there's a couple ways that you can do that. You can obviously do it with templates, but I use the Block Lock ruler set, which I'll be honest with you is a little bit pricey. A lot of times with these ruler sets, these like Block Lock things, I ask for them for Christmas or Mother's Day or my birthday, but I've used that one so many times, and it just, so it has templates for the triangle and then the two the things that make the square, the triangle and the square. And they're a little oversized, so you sew those up, and you just don't have to be that careful when you're sewing them, which is really kind of nice when you get into that kind of chain piecing zen. And I do really like my, I don't like to cut off points. I try to be a meticulous piecer. And so it's kind of fun when I don't have to be super meticulous because you're going to trim them down. I use the Block Lock thing for half square triangles too. I'll put a link in the show notes so you can see them, and I'll be honest, they are an investment for your sewing room. They're not something you should buy lightly, but these blocks, they come out so perfect. And when the blocks are perfect, they sew together more perfectly, So then when you sew them together, you got to pay attention to your 1/4 inch seam and, that you're not cutting your points off and things like that. But it went together like a dream. So that was super nice. So when that was off of the long armor, I made a Christmas cushion with the On Point pillow tutorial from Tanya from Carried Away Quilting. I talked about that last time. I don't think I showed pictures, so I did a blog post. I'll put a few pictures in the show notes and give you a link to the blog post if you want to see the whole thing. I kind of messed up my color placement. The color placement was fine. I mixed up 2 rows sewing, but it still came out in a weird symmetrical way. Not going to sweat it. I did quilt that one by myself though. And I'm just super excited to have just a new little Christmas cushion. It's a 12 by 16 lumbar throw pillow, so it'll just go in a nice armchair. Her pattern it's more for a 16-inch square pillow form, so that's fine. I just didn't make it as tall as 16 inches. I just made it 12 inches tall, so it was a very easy adjustment on that. And I was able to send off Scrappy Happy, my scrap quilt, to my brother. And so all that was just like, it felt, very like like it was the end of a lot of projects. And it was also, this month is when my the quilt that is in American Patchwork and Quilting. I have a blue and white quilt. I like to think of it. It's in the holiday issue, right? There's not very many Hanukkah quilts. And it's blue and white. It's the last project in that magazine. I think of it as the Hanukkah quilt of that issue. And that was with that Boro fabric from Moda that I did the mixture of quilting cottons and wovens. And the background fabric is kind of a heavier linen. I'm so excited to get this quilt back and into use. And again, my friend Holly Ann, she did some gorgeous custom quilting on it, feathers, and it's really pretty. And so that came out at the same time. So even though that quilt's been done for a long time, I just felt like boom, boom, boom. I've got all these projects after a summer of basically feeling like I'd accomplished nothing. It was really nice to get some stuff done, if you know what I mean. The other thing I want to talk about is my friend Minky has a new book out. I've got it right here. I'll put a link in the show notes. It's called Zaka from the Heart. And of course, it is completely adorable. It is a book that has some sewing illustration, but it's mostly just adorable little projects. So I'm looking here. There's an adorable coaster with some these little houses that are reverse applique, and what is this? It's a macaron, those cute little French desserts. And it's a pincushion. Okay, I wasn't sure it had a zipper on it. It's a little macaron pincushion. The table of contents has all these pictures. It's really nice. Drawstring bags, a pencil pouch, zipper bags, all kinds of like purses and totes and zipper bags and cushions and wall hangings. Super, super cute. So she gave me a copy of this book, and I have to read the inscription, which says, "Kristen, I hope you really make a thing." Because sometimes I am guilty of not making projects that I should. So I did. So I made a thing. And it is let me get the name right. It is on page, where did it go? 46. And it is called the 2-in-1 Zipper Pouch. So it's a zipper pouch that has 2 zippers. So which is really nice because, one's a little further down and you can put small things there. It's going to be so perfect for hand piecing supplies, so you can keep them a little bit organized because there's two places to put things. Now I'm going to bend down and pick up my project here. So I actually used her fabric, if that seemed appropriate. It's her new Someday line. And you know how sometimes, fabric lines almost always have a focus fabric, and this one has like scooters, like an Italian scooter, like a Vespa, and bicycles with the basket on the front that you picture a baguette and a bouquet of flowers in, and some roses and kind of some lacy accents. It's super cute, but I often don't know how to use that kind of fabric. This is perfect if you're a fussy cutter, which I'm in general not, but this is so perfect for fussy cutting, and she spaced them out actually nicely so that you don't waste a lot of things as you go after these various motifs. But I use this as the main part of the zipper pouch and as the whole backside, so you can really see some really good roses and bikes and scooters. And then I just used one of her navy. It's a white print. I'll take a picture. I've been meaning to take a picture of this for ages. So it's basically a white background print, and then I did a little navy accents for the top part of the pouch. And I actually happen to have, and I could not have been more surprised about this, I had a navy zipper that I could use at the top and a white zipper, which is the shorter one. The one on the very front. So usually whenever I'm going to do a project like this, I'm always missing a crucial, element of it. So that was a really fun project that I did one Sunday afternoon. I am not afraid of zippers, but I'm also not super zipper confident either. So I was very pleased. I was very pleased with how this came out. So it's a super cute book. If you are a fan of Mickey Kim, who is, you might know her online as Zariano, it's just got the whole totally cute Zaka vibe. So definitely check that out. The other thing that I've been playing around with that has been really fun is I got 2 irons from Oliso, and if you're on social media, you've probably seen that there's been a lot of hubbub about the new Oliso mini iron, and I am a fan. I gotta say, I got this adorable little pink one. If you might have seen in my stories that I'm working on another quilt right now that I'll talk about in a sec. Man, that might not even be on my list. I'll just say it right now. It's the confetti quilt from Sunday Best Quilts from Corey Yoder and Sherry McConnell. And I've been working on that quilt. It's just it's a 1-block quilt. And so you can really get into a groove with it. And I turned my sewing table, which is a dining room table. I usually sew at the narrow end of it. But I turned it in the room so that I'm sewing on the wide end of it, and I'm sewing on the right, and I set up a little mini pressing station on my left because I'm just so lazy that I can't even get up to press because the sewing machine is actually directly behind me, like 6 inches behind me. Sometimes that just seems too far. But I thought as I was, doing these blocks for the Sweet Confetti quilts, it just made sense that I could just press those things open right there and then just go on to the next step. And that has worked out really well. I have that 17 by 17 wool pressing mat and this little iron. I didn't bring the iron in here, but I don't know. It's like maybe 6 or 7 inches long. Yeah, it's very small. It gets very hot. So Oliso as those irons that the standard size ones have the lifts that pick up. I'm sure you've seen them a million times, which I'll get to in a minute, which is super cool. So the Oliso thing is that the irons stay horizontal. I mean, you could set it up on its end like a normal iron if you wanted to, but they stay down, and I feel like they just stay hotter that way. So the little ones don't have the lift, but it has a silicone mat that fits the iron, so you can leave it on that silicone mat. So on my little wool pressing mat, I just had that little pink mat, had the iron on top of it. It's a steam iron. You don't have to use steam, and as a matter of fact, I have a complicated relationship with steam. I get that it makes things less wrinkly, but I think as a quilter, it's dangerous because you can very easily stretch things out of shape. And the quilt that I'm working on now has a lot of triangles you cut a square and then you cut it either once in the diagonal or twice. So there's bias edges everywhere. Things get very stretched out very easily. I'm having to sew these very meticulously and slowly, and I'm ripping stuff out and doing them over so that they're right. So it's very nice to have this little wool pressing mat. And with the wool pressing mat, they say that you can use steam, but they don't recommend it. And when I did my review of that, I think that part of the reason they don't recommend it is that because it can make it smell like a barnyard. I don't have that problem with the one that I have, but so I sometimes use steam. My old iron is a reliable iron, and they want you to use steam all the time. They want you to have water in that iron all the time. So that it's not a tremendously great fit for me. So you can have steam if you want, but you don't have to. And it's got these cute little buttons on the side, like if you need that little burst of steam, because maybe like you've got water in it, but you're using it as a dry iron, but you've got a little problem spot, you can just squeeze these little buttons on the side and you get a little burst to take care of that. So I'm finding it so useful. It's completely adorable. I got the pink one. But more than that, it's super handy. I'm not one that at this point in my life goes to a lot of like retreats and things like that. I hope to someday, but this would be the perfect kind of iron for that too, because it's pretty small. But most importantly, It gets really hot, so it works really well. It's got the built-in steam, and it has a really long cord, which I really like. And that was the first thing that I noticed when I didn't use the mini iron for a couple days. I took the full-size Oliso iron out of the box first, and the first thing I saw was, oh my gosh, this has a luxuriously long cord. And, you just don't know how people's sewing rooms are set up, right? So it was very nice. It had a very long cord. And you know what the other thing is about these? They don't want you to use distilled water. On my Reliable iron, I have to have a bottle of distilled water. I just buy the 1 gallon things, and that's the only thing they want you to put in that iron. Oliso says, do not use distilled water. Use tap water. I was like, sister, you are singing my song. So that was awesome. And so that also, it's that kind of iron where you, it's horizontal. You put your hand on it and it goes down, and you iron, and then when you're done, you take your hand off, the lift goes up. And it took me a little bit of getting used to that action, because I've been sitting an iron on its end for, 50 years. But you do get used to it. I've joked that it perhaps is developing some bad habits for, hotel room ironing, getting used to leaving that down. But it's very easy to fill with steam. The steam function works fabulous. But also it works very, very well without steam. And that to me, again, very important. So I like it that I can kind of go either way about it. The other thing that I really like about the fact that you leave it horizontally is that it's more stable on the ironing board, because I'm in a kind of a small area, and I often pull my ironing boards up against a wall, but I also often pull it out from the wall so I can get behind it, honestly, so that I can watch TV while I'm ironing something if I've got, I'm going to be pressing for a while. And, my iron has fallen off my ironing board more than once, but the fact that it's horizontal makes the whole thing so much more stable. And the other thing that I wanted to say about it is that it's comfortable to use. Now, I'm not putting down my Reliable iron. I won it at Quilt Market a few years ago, and I've been very happy with it. But there was a learning curve on it that when you put your hand, and I heard other people say this too, when you put your hand on the handle, just the most natural place toggled the steam off and off. So you had to learn to put your hand really low on the handle, which was not a comfortable situation. I've learned, it's fine. It's a great iron. But everything about the Oliso iron is very comfortable and intuitive to use. Even the way you can fill it up with water. You do it in a horizontal position, which is just very, very easy, if you know what I mean. So anyways, I'll put a link in the show note if you're interested. They are definitely high-end quilting irons. These are not, my other iron that I had before, I had a nice iron, is like a $15 Black & Decker. And while it's hot and technically worked, it was heavy and didn't. In the design of it, would catch on seam allowances and squinch them up and stuff. So it's a luxury. It's a beautiful thing to have an iron that is basically made for quilters. It's got a 8-minute auto shut off, so it's not shutting off all the time. And if you tip it, I was looking through the manual earlier today, if you tip it over, it turns over in 30 seconds. So it's like, got some really nice safety features. And like I said, that super long cord. So just wanted to share with you about that. I will write up a review on my blog, but it's the 2 irons that I've been using for a few weeks now, and I'm frankly in love, and I just wanted to share. Let's start talking a little knitting now. I'm so glad to have a knitting segment back on the podcast. I'm not doing anything super exciting, but I did want to share. I'm still knitting dishcloths, and I have mentioned a couple times that I wanted to try the Knit Picks Dishy yarn. I finally bought some and have knit up, I think, 3 dishcloths now, and I love it. It's the 100% cotton yarn, which I've talked at great length about how I don't really like knitting with cotton yarn because it's not very stretchy. So the cheap stuff that you get at Joann's and Michael's, which I've been using for years, it's just not that pleasurable. It's not horrible. But this stuff is really nice. So it's a little bit, it says it's worsted weight, but it's a little, what's the word? It's a little finer of a piece of yarn than the sugar and cream stuff. And it's not as rough. It's just a little bit softer. I use the same size knitting needles. I use just bamboo, clover bamboo needles. You can get at any Joann's. In size 7 to knit the dishcloths. And so I think it does it's a little bit drapier because the yarn's a little bit finer, but that's fine. So yeah, and it's a little bit more, I think it might be a little bit more expensive, but I have knit 3, I'm going to get 3, maybe 4 dishcloths out of it. And I only get 2 out of the ones from Joann's. So because it's finer, you're just getting more yarn on the thing. So it's worked out really well. So I'm totally enjoying that. I'm not doing anything exciting, just my grandma's favorite dishcloths. So I just wanted to share that. If you've been wondering about cotton dishcloth yarn, I recommend the ones from Knit Picks. I'll put a link in the show notes that comes in lots of colors. I tend to like the white or natural ones because I end up bleaching them because well, I don't know how the color would hold up with the dishy yarn, but with the other stuff I would use is that it would just get really faded over time. And I had this sort of blue-green variegated ones that were the first ones I used, and they just got so disgusting looking when they got faded. So I'm just like, I'm going white, and when they get yucky, I'm going to bleach them. So, and the other thing, I finally cast on another pair of socks, and I love to knit socks. And so that's been really fun. Just, again, Knit Picks yarn, inexpensive. What's it called? Like Felici or something like that. It's just their regular sock yarn, not expensive. I went to the clearance section and found some stripy yarn that is just in a colorway that I like. It's kind of like muted greens and grays and blues. Sounds exactly like me. So yeah, I'm knitting that at night. While we're watching TV, and so it's really nice to have some handwork going again. So yeah, I felt like my order from Knit Picks was a win-win. Let's talk books. I'm not sure I finished much since we talked to you last. I did have to tell you a funny story. I've talked at length, because I record roughly every 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, and I don't always get through a lot of stuff, so I worry I don't have enough content here. But the book After You, which I've talked about over many podcasts here, I was listening to it as an audiobook, and I thought it was about like at 93%. I knew I was getting very close to the end. And when I went to go, okay, I'm going to go finish this book, it had auto-returned because I used the Libby app. So I had run out of time, and then someone else had it. I couldn't get it right back. So I actually drove to the library and found the book, and I sat down in the library and read the last 5 pages. It was like 5 pages. I was so close to the end. So anyways, I did enjoy that. That's After You by Jojo Moyes. What else have I finished? I am reading a book called Free to Focus by Michael Hyatt. It's more of a business book that just helps you kind of prioritize and, sort of set goals and achieve your goals. And so I'm enjoying that. I'm not all the way through it yet, and I actually have it in ebook and audiobook formats. And I'm kind of bouncing back and forth between those. So I'll report back on that when I have more to say. And I finished, again, a book that I mentioned a couple times called How to Fall in Love with a Bookshop, in a Bookshop. How to Fall in Love in a Bookshop, I think. Now I don't know what the title of it is. Something like that. I'll put a link in the show notes. I've talked about it before, but I finally finished it, and it was adorable, and I loved it. I highly recommend it. And then in my very Kristen way, I've been listening to Inspector Gamache books as audiobooks. I have this big drive to San Diego and back. And when I do my cleaning, I do listen to podcasts, but sometimes I just want fiction. And so I actually went back to the beginning, the very first Inspector Gamache book called Still Life. It's by Louise Penny. If you're new here, because if you're not new here, I talk about these books incessantly. But I've always said that it was not my favorite, that that series took a while to get going. But I went back and listened to that, and you know what? Now I think it was pretty good. I did like it. And if you have read all through the series, there are so many little things dropped that are foreshadowed in that first episode that I really wonder if she had plotted out the next 15 books ahead, because I was just like, oh my gosh, I know where that's going to go. I know where that's going to go. So that was kind of fun. And then I couldn't get the the second one, so I just skipped to the whatever one I could find, which is book number 5, what's called The Brutal Telling, and I'm listening to that as I'm cleaning my house this week. So just, I don't know, do you reread and re-listen to books? I find it comforting. I don't know. And for me, at my age, it's like the book that I'm listening to right now, I don't actually remember who did the crime, but I don't even listen to it for the crime. I listen to it to hang out in Three Pines with a cafe au lait and a croissant at the bistro. You know, I'm a total character-driven novel kind of person, so I just want to hang out with those characters. So anyway, so that's really it. So a little bit disappointing on the book side, but I'm getting the itch. People are saying that they're reading Rosamunde Pilcher. Let's talk about rereading books. My friend Frances is reading September. I think Michelle over at Cole and Taffy just read September. Not my favorite one of hers, but it's fine. But The Shell Seekers was her breakout novel, and I've only read it once, and it was about 17 years ago, and I'm thinking that I might want to break that one out as a, in the fall. I want these kind of little comfort reads. So that's what I'm thinking about book-wise. In terms of what we're watching, have not been to any movies, and again, we don't really fly through all the shows that quickly, but we did finish the latest season of Handmaid's Tale. And that was really good. If you can stand it, it's not an easy show to watch, but I think I'm just a little toughened up. I'm a little immune to it now. I've got my tough exterior. So, where I'm just, and we're used to the craziness of Gilead. So we got through that. I'm kind of glad that was done, though. We were very excited about it. We tried the new Veronica Mars. I don't know how many years ago, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, I watched, even then it wasn't even new, the Veronica Mars TV show with Kristen Bell, and totally loved it. And I've even read some of the novels, which are not great, but they're not horrible either. So they did a thing where they brought Veronica Mars back as an adult. She is if you don't know about that show, in the original series, she's a high school student. Her dad's a private eye, and she kind of works for her dad. And so, again, it's a little mystery based. And now, she is a full-blown, private investigator. Again, and she comes back to the city, which is sort of San Diego-like. It's definitely in California. And so we watched one episode, but it didn't get any traction with me. It was really kind of racy and explicit in a way that the original Veronica Mars wasn't. And I was like, I don't remember it being like this. Do you? And my husband was like, I don't think so. So I don't think we're going to watch that. We are now on to Bosch, which is on Amazon Prime, with, who's the star of that? Titus Welliver. Love that guy. You may know him as the Man in Black from Lost. We should talk Lost sometime. Maybe next time, because the time is ticking here. Lost. I watched it 10 years after it came out, but I got obsessed with that show. But so if you want to know who Titus Welliver is, the Man in Black, he also was in a few other things like Deadwood or something maybe. But that's Michael Connolly wrote the books Bosch. That's the main character. He's a private investigator in Hollywood. And it's kind of a beautifully shot series. And so it's on its, I don't know, 3rd or 4th season. We catch them every time they come out and totally enjoying those. Kind of looking for a new sitcom. We finished our Kim's Convenience, the thing that we watch with Ben, our high schooler. And I feel like we have worked our way through every appropriate sitcom that we can watch with him. I don't want to watch Friends with him. It's too sexual. I learned that by trying to watch it with Chloe, going, I feel uncomfortable with this. When you go to college, you can watch that on your own, but I don't really want to watch it with you. We tried It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Way too raunchy. Can't do that. So I don't know, we did the whole Office, Seinfeld, Parks and Rec, all that kind of stuff. But we can't find a new one that kind of fits that same slot, So maybe, there's the Goldbergs. I guess we could do something like that. And that's kind of okay. But yeah, something along that line. But we're having trouble with that. So But my middle kid, who is off at college, he has discovered Curb Your Enthusiasm, which, is the Larry David show. And it's very funny. We've watched all of those. We've kind of rewatched a few of those recently. I don't know that I really want to watch those with my high schooler either. Like, you can go watch those off of college, but I don't want to sit there in the same room with you while we're watching these. But what's funny is to hear my 19-year-old talk about Larry David and how he sort of relates to Larry David, and the kind of the hook, the shtick of that show is that Larry he reacts to things in the way we all wish we could, but we have, our manners are too good for. So, he's constantly calling people out on their behavior, in that way that you think, oh man, I saw what you just did there. I just saw that you cut in, or I saw that you saw me in the grocery store and then pretended not to and ignored me, kind of a thing. And so he's adopted some of Larry's little sayings, like the stop and chat. So if, like you're in the grocery store and you see each other, like, so you have to kind of gauge whether the other person wants to do the stop and chat. Or pretend that they didn't see you, and so he said, like the other day, he was walking, somewhere through school and kind of acknowledged somebody, and as soon as they smiled and waved, and they immediately like took out their phone and looked at it. He's like, oh, they don't want to do the stop and chat. So there's a lot of little funny Larry expressions like that. So that's been kind of fun to have him discover those. Okay, let's move on to homemaking. The big news there is that I finished the whole house declutter. Yes, it took, I don't know, what do I want to say, 6 months at least, maybe longer. We started in the garage, just 1 hour a week. And when we finished that, I just finished the whole house. The last section of that was going through all the kitchen cabinets, which have been gone through, so they really went really fast. And I was able to declutter some stuff kitchen-wise that I took down to San Diego to hand off to the kids, which was really nice. As a matter of fact, a lot of the kitchen stuff is a little bit more spacious now because, like, I gave my second set of measuring spoons and measuring cups that I got when I was in my 20s, but they're like plastic. I gave them to Jonah to take to school, and I'm like, you know what? I have a nice metal set of each of those, and I like having a second set, but I'm going to upgrade myself. So that's my advice if you've got college kids. Get rid of your stuff, hand down their stuff, the stuff to them, and upgrade yourself. So I just got to tell you that it was the best feeling to know that kind of every square inch of this house has been gone through. And I'm not saying that there's not more work to do, because you can always seem to, find more clutter. But I don't know, I'm going to say 30 bags went to Goodwill, electronic waste, hazardous waste, trips to the dump, it was quite a project. And so now I'm excited to just keep it up. Well, I'm excited and I'm not. I've kind of actually noticed that now that there's not like a big project that I feel like there's an end to, I have a little bit of a hard time motivating myself to just go do my 15-minute Fly Lady zone cleaning, the deep clean. Now, I force myself to do it, but I'm finding myself going, I don't really want to do that today. I really don't. I really want to sit here and, scroll Instagram. But the idea that I just tell myself it's 15 minutes, you can do anything for 15 minutes. If you don't get through the whole thing today, it's no big deal. It's just 15 minutes. You got all week, so you can really play games with yourself mentally like that. So that's been good. But I think it's a little bit like sometimes when you're losing weight, the motivation of continuing with your program or your healthy eating is because you see the scale moving. And once you get to maintenance, it's just kind of not as sexy and not as fun. You don't get that feedback of, oh, I lost 2 pounds or whatever. So you just, being there and maintaining needs to be its own reward, So now I do say that I made it through the whole house, but I will say that my next big project is to go through my cookbooks and recipe binders. I've been through the cookbooks actually, but I have recipe binders where, where I either make a photocopy of a often used recipe from a cookbook, so I don't have to open that cookbook every time, or things that I've, printed out from online, and they're in sheet protectors in a set of 2. binders, separated by meat and chicken and vegetables and salads and breads and things like that. And I pull those out when I menu plan, and I pull them out of the binder, so I just have the recipes I need for the week. Well, the reality is that I almost never refile them. And so I just really have my most often like 30 recipes that are just in the front of the binder falling out all the time. And so I really need to go through those. And I need to, I started going back through those binders and rediscovering recipes that I used to make, 10 years ago, but somehow fell out of the rotation. So that's been kind of fun because I've been aspiring to kind of mix up our repertoire of food and and introduce new recipes, but sometimes these new recipes can really be just something I haven't made for 10 years. So that's been kind of fun. So that's going to be something that I need to do maybe one night while we're watching TV, just take those recipes out. And, it's just a kind of, manual labor of just evaluating whether I'm ever really going to make this again and refiling them. So that's been kind of fun. Well, that will be fun. I'll be happy to have that done. Let me put it that way. So I know if you've been listening to me for a while, I've been preaching fly lady, and I'm sorry if that that system doesn't resonate with you, but I feel like it's been a little life-changing around here. And I am a person whose house was pretty clean, but I never got to the deep cleaning, and I talked about that last time. But if you are a person who just has trouble getting on a routine of just the weekly housekeeping, then there's the Fly Lady system's like a kind of a deep system. So you can just start with just like your routines of shining your sink and doing your menu planning and doing your, what she calls weekly home blessing, which is what I used to just call cleaning the house. But now that weekly home blessing is actually a little less of a deep cleaning, because I hit the deep cleaning once a month. So that's been really good. And the way I break mine up, like I did today, I set the timer for 15 minutes, did 15 minutes on the kitchen, wipe down everything really well, scrub out the sink, wash the window, wipe down the appliances. It took actually exactly 15 minutes. And then 15 minutes of dusting, of just quickly going through like the downstairs and the stair railings. And I do my room really quickly, completely done in 15 minutes. And tomorrow I'll vacuum and mop, and that will take 15 minutes for each of those. And the house feels clean. So if you are, if you're kind of that person that knows that you need to get in a weekly routine, but you just can't seem to do it, that's where you need to start. If you're someone who's already kind of cleaning your house all the time, but never can get to the deep cleaning, that's where the zone thing comes in. So like this week is the master bedroom zone. So this is when I'm going to dive in and I'm going to dust the shutters, wipe down the windows, do a really good vacuum, a little deeper dust, maybe with some furniture polish instead of just like a feather duster. But still, it takes about 15 minutes. So I'll do that one day. And then on the other days, for the rest of the days of the week, and not necessarily every day, I'll just go through the drawers, maybe refold a few things, quickly go through my closet and go, is there anything I can get rid of here? And just kind of stay on top of it in this very low-key 15-minute way. So anyway, so I'm just going to continue preaching that a little bit because I just think that the system makes so much sense once you can get your mind around it, that I think it would help a lot of people. And I've been kind of talking with some people who are kind of obsessed like me right now, and the obsession part comes in with like just kind of getting that system in your head. So, but the one thing that I did want to mention is that it's freeing me up to do some things that have been bothering me. Like we redid our kitchen about 16 years ago. And in some places, the cabinets, like where you grab the handle, the finish is starting to wear off, which makes me kind of sick when I think about how much we spent on those. So I did a little research on what can you do for worn out cabinets. And I found this product, and it was $5 on Amazon, called Old English Scratch Cover. So maybe if I think of it, I'll put the YouTube video that I found in the show notes. It comes in a light and a dark, and I bought the dark, and after I bought the dark, I fretted about whether it would be too dark. We have cherry cabinets, but I still was wondering if it was going to be too dark. It wasn't. And you just put a little bit on like a cloth, kind of a thin cloth, because I think otherwise it just absorbs in, and you just rub it over whatever area is, the finish has worn off, and it kind of just like restains it. It's a little bit like using those little furniture markers to get rid of little scratches, but it works so much better. So yeah, so now I'm just running through fixing all those little places in the kitchen that kind of bug you when you get into cleaning, and then you go, oh, well, this needs to be fixed and this needs to be fixed. It's like one thing leads to another. Well, this is something that for $5 I was able to, in just, 15 minutes, go fix all those little places in the kitchen that were bugging me. And for one simple swap this week, I want to talk about candles. So I love candles. I am guilty of decorating by candle. Every time I go into Target, I want to buy more candles. The weird thing for me is I think I have a really very sensitive sense of smell. So even if candles smell good, I think I want scented candles, but immediately the scent gets too strong for me. So I have these 2 big candles that I bought when I redid the family room because I really like these metal things they're in, and they're quite large. They're from Target. They're the Magnolia Home thing. But I don't like the way they smell. They overwhelm me. So I have this idea, and I haven't done it yet, but this is my plan. Well, first of all, do you know you should be burning soy candles? The normal candles have formaldehyde and all kinds of terrible things. They're not good for the environment. They're not good for your health, but soy candles are better. And so I got online, and I think from Amazon, I'm going to buy like 10 pounds of plain white soy wax. And I'm going to dig out all of the candle in these big candles that I have, and I'm going to refill it with plain wax, because what I want is the light. I want the ambiance of candlelight, but I don't want the smell. Especially like I want to burn candles at night, like when we're making dinner and stuff, but I don't want a scented candle on top of the yummy smell of food that I'm cooking. I've never kind of understood that. So the one simple swap is, if you're burning candles, think about soy. And so I'm going to try this whole unscented thing. I might do a little experiment with a little bit of essential oils, so they can be very lightly scented. And then, of course, if you like that smelly, just a more mild aroma in the air, there's diffusing essential oils, which I also do. And that's very nice for the smell, but I want the ambience of the fire. And so yeah, soy candles, the one simple swap. This has been a very long podcast, so let me just wrap it up. There's a few last things I want to say. I recently started uploading my podcast episodes to YouTube. So if that's a place that you listen to things in other ways, I want you to know that happened. If you follow me, if you subscribe to my YouTube channel, I want to apologize for the fact that over the last 3 weeks, I have uploaded 34 episodes. So you've probably gotten all kinds of notifications that you didn't really care about. So sorry about that. I've gotten so many emails and comments in the last few weeks since the last episode that I so cherish. So thank you so much for those of you that have reached out. I love connecting with you in those ways. And I do want to mention that if you leave a comment on the podcast, on the actual show notes, well, you know this if you've done this, because I just email you back directly. So if it looks like, Kristen never responds to comments, it's because I don't usually respond in the blog post, because I figure nobody ever goes back to check that. So I just reply separately and personally. So I just wanted to mention that. I did get a few new reviews. TMCCMC and Trisha TX53. Thank you so much for your reviews. I totally appreciate it. I also wanted to mention that one day I got in a thing, I started checking other platforms, and I found out that Texas Farm Girl reviewed it on Stitcher, and I think about 10 months ago. So sorry about that. And thank you. I really appreciate it. So if you would like to share the podcast, rate, review it, very, very much appreciated. So thanks for hanging with me. If you're still here, I hope that you have a wonderful week, and I will see you next time.